Okay.
Yes.
So if you would, and I'll go around and ask you if you would introduce yourselves. Tell us who you are, where you work, and maybe a little bit about how you got started in your profession. Derek, would you like to go first?
Sure, yeah. My name's Derek Haynes. My career has been starting software companies. I've started a couple that have been acquired, so I love starting businesses. And now I work at a company that does self-driving lawnmowers. And how I got started is I think I always thought I was a lot smarter than other people when I was younger, and I was not a very good employee. And I always wanted to do something on my own. I hated the feeling of going to a job and looking at the clock and going, oh my God, when's it going to be 5 o'clock, or when's it going to be Friday? And I wanted to do something where I kind of felt the opposite. And starting a business was kind of gave me that feeling.
Thanks, Derek. Margaret?
Hi, everybody. So I'm Margaret Sergio. I am a senior systems architect, and I work for HP Inc. So the way I got into this is actually a little bit different. As a kid, I happened to live in several countries, and I ended up about your age in Venezuela, and the high school I was attending went on strike. And my parents didn't know what to do with me, and I started to go to work with my father, and there was a computer that nobody used. And my father sat me in front of it and said, well, see if you can figure this out, and handed me manuals that were in English. I didn't speak very good English, but at the time. And so I saw my first computer, and that was it. I fell in love, and I was going to be a chemist beforehand, and I saw my first computer. I started playing video games, and I am still a gamer till now. And that was it. That's how I got into this.
Thank you. Ariel.
Hello, my name is Ariel Rodriguez. I'm the Technology Systems Site Manager here at Poudre High School for those students that have met me. So I got into this field. So I actually attended Poudre High School as a student. This is my school. So I get to work at the school I went to, which felt a little weird at first. But as a kid, I always liked computers. And one day, while I was walking around, I saw an employee that actually had one of these logos. It said Poudre School District IT. And I actually went up to him and asked, hey, I would like to work in IT. What do I need to get, or what do I need to do to get from here to there? And he was actually extremely helpful. He actually sat down and we had like a 10-minute conversation, and he told me everything that I need to do. Go to this school, attend these classes, get these certificates. And he gave me a lot of very helpful advice. One of the advices that he gave me was saying to start very early and to not start in that department. He was saying to start like as a custodian, something that you don't need any type of experience with. And that's exactly what I did. So right after I graduated, I started working as a custodian in the custodial departments while I attended school. And then after I got my degree, I applied for an IT department here in Poudre School District, and I got it. But yeah, it's been really cool so far.
Thanks, Ariel. We appreciate you being here a lot. Lawrence.
Hey, good morning. Well, first of all, students, congratulations for sitting in a computer science class. I'm pretty confident that's going to lead you down a path in your career that's going to result in you being leaders of what will be an increasingly technological world. So congratulations for being here. My name is Lawrence Mauk. I grew up in Nebraska. Fortunately, there was this angel of a woman, that teacher that made all the difference for me. She happened to come through my small little village with a set of pet Commodore computers at the time, and she taught me computer science, she taught me college math, and she taught me a foreign language. And so I completed my education at Colorado State University. I was a scientific programmer for CSU for a number of years, working on contracts for NASA, National Park Service, U.S. Forest Service. And then for about 30 years, I worked at Hewlett-Packard Company here in Fort Collins. It gave me the opportunity to travel and work with the smartest people in several countries around the world. For a little kid from Nebraska, it was a pretty great opportunity to see the rest of the world on the company dime. And so I no longer work to earn a salary because I was fortunate enough to choose computer science, software engineering as a career. And so on June 1st, I retired. Now I'm working with Poudre School District on their computer science advisory committee. And I'm also working with the Technology Student Association. And I'm trying to promote TSA more broadly through Fort Collins. I'll stop there. Again, congratulations for being here.
Thank you, Lawrence. Richard.
Hi, Richard Rodinson. I too am a Poudre High School alum, I guess. So I went there, one class at Rocky. I took Russian over there because they didn't have it at Poudre. But I took the one computer, well, it wasn't computer science. It was a programming class at Poudre. And there was just one at the time, but I enjoyed it and loved programming on the old Apple IIe years and years ago. Before that, growing up, my dad always, fortunately had a computer around that I could play with and learn how to program. And so I've continued that, then went to CSU and wasn't sure what to do. So I took all these different classes, and honestly, every class I took, I just fell in love with. I was like, this is so interesting. This is so awesome. I could totally see myself doing this. But I had to narrow it down at some point and actually get an actual degree in a particular area. So I did decide to do computer science. I loved the classes there, maybe even a little bit more than my other classes, the physics or the geology or the biology or all the other classes I really enjoyed. But computer science just was so much fun, solving puzzles and programming and doing that. And I saw that every other domain out there was being touched by software, and that's even more so now. But just back then, I was seeing that my dad's a physicist. He was programming all the time, doing simulations and things. I had friends in other areas, and they were using programming, and so I was like, I'm gonna do computer science. Let me try that, and then maybe I'll do other things. But never really went back to other things. I've been doing computer science ever since. Worked at HP, Agilent. Small software group, and then CA Technologies in town that's now Broadcom. Now I'm in a startup. I've been there for a few years. It's kind of a grow up now. Bongo, it does online learning, video technology, and a whole bunch of stuff there. And it's been really fun to just grow an organization almost from nothing and really contribute in the world. And we're worldwide. So a lot of fun experiences that have led me to where I'm at now. But yeah, both from Poudre High School, Poudre School District, and from CSU. So I'm a local kid that wished I'd had a computer science course in high school. That would have been tremendous, but you'll definitely be prepared for the future ahead of you.
Thanks, Richard. Next question. So what is the coolest thing that you've either done or made? Derek.
Let's see. Personally, I don't know if this is legal or not, but we'll find. And oh man, this is being recorded too. So it's really hard to get campsite reservations. So I made software that would make campsite reservations for me automatically. So that was great for our family. But But the legal one that I'm most excited about is right now we get to do, I program self-driving lawnmowers. And that is just so exciting, doing something that interacts with the real world. And there's so many challenges with it, and there's so many other things that we'll eventually get to do as we tackle this problem for robotics. So that's been really just super fun.
Thanks, Derek. Margaret?
Okay, so probably the most fun project that I've been on actually was a project where we implemented what's called the image-based forensic service. But in reality, what it was a system for detecting counterfeit packaging. So we actually could scan packages of, in our case, it was inkjet printer ink, and actually from those images being able to detect if the packaging was counterfeit or not. But then the cool thing that we discovered is actually that we not only could detect these counterfeits, which turns out to not to be that much of a problem because security has other means to detecting that, but we could actually detect links between packaging, and so we could actually detect. So if you look at counterfeiters are mostly research and development operations, and they actually have almost like a supply chain. And so we could actually trace the supply chain around the world to actually detect links between different counterfeiters. That was the coolest thing, which we never expected we could actually do.
Nice, thank you. Ariel?
So as a kid, I always loved just building my own computers. And one of the schools at Poudre School District, they have a very, very nice gaming lab set up. And I got to actually order all the parts for that lab and assemble everything together. So I just felt like a kid again, opening all these parts and just setting everything up one by one. But that's me, just I've always loved just building my own computer. So having to do that for an entire lab was really awesome.
Cool. Lawrence?
Yeah, so my team would kill me if I didn't use this project. So the first half of my career, I worked on computer programs that somebody else had developed. I worked to extend them or maintain them in some way. And about 10 years ago, I had an opportunity to start my own team in Fort Collins. It was a team of 10 people. And eventually that team grew to about 450 people in places like Germany, the Czech Republic, Romania, China, and India. And I had a chance to work with some really, really smart people in all of those countries. Basically, what the product did was, for the longest time, a company or a bank or any company, Ford Motor Company, would buy a bunch of computers, and they would hire their own IT staff to connect them all together and maintain the security of that network of computers. But in the last decade or so, all these companies realized that instead of, and then maybe they only use 5 or 10% of all that computing capacity over the life of that computer. So in the last 10, 15 years, these companies have been migrating to the cloud, to providers like Oracle Cloud or Microsoft Azure or Amazon Web Services, AWS. And so my product was responsible for figuring out how your application worked currently inside of your company, and then figured out how to migrate it to a more cost-effective cloud provider. And I could talk for a long time about that, but I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you. Richard?
All right. Well, one project we've been working on more recently that's been really fun and rewarding is, we call it auto analysis. So it's a video analysis tool that if I'm presenting maybe in a class, I'm talking about something, or I'm maybe doing a sales pitch if I'm a salesperson in some company. Whatever you're doing, you're on video and you've got an audio stream of you describing something. And we take that and then we analyze it so that people can practice and kind of see how they're doing with things like clarity of speech, filler words. How many times am I using filler words? And I actually found I use a lot. I probably will use some here, that you have your filler words per minute and you get kind of a rating of how that is, and you can see it along with the video underneath as you do your speech, and you can, kind of work on that. Or your rate of speech. Am I speaking too quickly? Or am I too slow? Or am I not varying it? And so it's just super, kind of monotone. There's all sorts of things that we can analyze in that. We can even say, if I'm doing a speech on a particular subject, I should do specific keywords. And so that's been really fun to build and utilize a whole bunch of the technology out there. We use Amazon Web Services, as was mentioned, a great thing. We're just all in the cloud, and we can use, some of you probably use Amazon Alexa, right? So it's constantly learning with everybody using that. We've actually just expanded to 7 other languages where we can support this, and we've been training it on things like TED Talks or common speeches that are actually known as good, clear deliveries. And then we can train it on that so that we know what kind of rate of speech and all these things that are actually good. And then you give your speech, and we tap into all this technology and wrap it all together and get the programming with the training of, a lot of the AI stuff is actually handled by Amazon, the really complex stuff, and we can just bundle it all together in the service. And I'll tell you, when I give a speech or something, I can do that and then practice it and get feedback and really correct myself and get better, such that when I get the final submission to a teacher, they don't have to tell me you were speaking too fast, you used filler words, all the things that you kind of have to work out. They can give higher value feedback. Like, I really liked how you developed this context in the beginning and got them excited about this topic, or something like that. It totally changes the education or the value of that kind of training or coaching experience from the rudimentary that you can just do with automation telling you about filler words. And it's pretty cool that that's possible now with all this technology that a lot of people have built to bring that together. So that's what I've been working on most recently. It's been kind of fun.
Thanks, Richard. Okay, next question. What type of non-traditional, and I'll leave that open for your interpretation, training would you recommend? Garrett.
Yeah, the most valuable one for me was that when I was in high school and college, I was on our school newspapers. I was an editor there, and I started as a writer. And the reason I think that's so important is that I think a lot of times when you're in high school and college, you're writing these big papers, 5 pages, 10 pages. But I found in real life, communication is much more important, being able to crystallize an idea down, and also to prioritize things, because there's a lot of things you need to cut out. And newspaper writing, that style, just forces you to always be thinking about what's the most important thing and putting that first. And there's just so much of life, I think, in a business is just clear, concise, simple communication. And I think the newspaper experience for me was really beneficial for that.
Thank you. Margaret.
So I'm gonna approach this more from a computer science standpoint of view. I have 2 suggestions. In high school, the thing that really helped me the most was that I spent a lot of time with other people in my classes actually programming. We would come up with our own projects and we would work on them ourselves without necessarily the teachers telling us what to do. Most of us have, by the time we graduated, we knew 3 different languages. In this case, it was Assembly, Basic, and Pascal, because this is a long time ago. But we all pretty much learned these by ourselves by working together. Once you guys are actually in a position where you actually are programming, what I would really suggest is getting involved in some open source projects. It's a great way to showcase your skills, learning new skills, and giving future employers examples of your work. So that would be my recommendation.
Thank you. Ariel.
So right now, I actually have a couple of student interns, and I do see like one or two there in the class right there. Yeah, right there, Jack and Jeffrey. So what me and actually, well, a lot of help with Wendy, we set up a paid work internship where these students will actually come in with me during their off period, and they just get a chance to work alongside me and learn from just things I do on my daily tasks. So right now I think this is their second week with me. So there's still quite a bit of things that I would like to show them, but basically starting young. A lot of schools offer different types of work like this, where you can just get a feel of what this field is like. And I think that this program is really going to help them quite a bit, because it's something they can use in the future, especially on their resumes. They can actually write down that they have experience in the IT field while they're still in high school.
Awesome. Thanks, Ariel. Lawrence.
Yeah, so I supported my way through college by working at psychiatric hospitals. And I've always joked that that was fantastic training for working with engineers. But more seriously, you know, the reason I like computer science, it does allow you to go inside of your own head and work independently. But inevitably, you will need to work with a team software. At least big software is a team sport. And so, you know, although you're working with computers, you're still working with humans, whether that's your customers or whether that's your teammates, whether that's your manager or your employees. And so I think working in that psychiatric hospital gave me good active listening skills. I think, you know, I think it gave me empathy toward the position I was in relative to others. And so yeah, I think there's always going to be the human aspect involved in computer science. So for me, that was a very important experience.
Thank you. Richard.
Yeah, I think that's where my mind went as well. Some of the soft skills that people have been talking about, that it's not necessarily the mechanics of exactly how to program this or that. I mean, you obviously need to know that, but it's so important how you communicate ideas and how you do planning, and then working with others, being able to collaborate with others and be open to other ideas and be able to sit down, and the listening that Lawrence mentioned. Yeah, these are so important to be able to actually you know, bring all the skills and everything else together into something that's actually gonna, you know, make a difference for folks. So I love that. And I like, I'll maybe, Ariel mentioned the internship kind of thing. For me, getting an internship years and years ago at HP, while I still had a couple years of computer science left, boy, it just made everything click as I started seeing things of how it could actually solve real problems, not just, I mean, there's a lot of good problems in school about program this to do this or something, but once you start seeing it on a scale of actual enterprise software doing things or problems that you're trying to solve each day, and you realize how each of those principles or each of those techniques actually contribute, everything starts clicking, at least it did for me. And so some sort of practical thing where you can go through the steps of troubleshooting or having to learn something new and pull in somebody else's code, or, you know, those kind of activities can be really valuable just to kind of round out that ability and kind of connect the dots, so you don't learn something and it mostly disappears, but you learn something and most of it's retained.
Thanks, Richard. I'm going to turn it over to students in the classroom. If you guys want to ask one or two or all of them the question, I'll leave it up to you. Yes, John, do you have a question? We'll just go around the room. We have one back here.
I don't know if this question's been exactly asked before, but what schools have you actually gone to? It wasn't exactly covered, but it was like touched on a little bit. I just want to know a little bit more about that.
Do you want to call on something?
It's just a question for everyone, I guess.
So the school path for each of us.
Yeah.
I guess mine was simple. It was just Poudre High School and then Colorado State University, and I went no major for a little while, and then I went into computer science and stuck with that.
Lawrence, did you?
Yeah, a couple of years at the University of South Dakota, and then finished at Colorado State University. I had a degree in engineering science, which was a pretty broad survey of electrical engineering, mechanical, civil, and had a concentration on computer-aided design and computer-aided manufacturing. And by the time I finished that degree at CSU, I was only a few courses away from getting a computer science degree. So I would encourage you to get a very broad, liberal arts-based education, learn all the, learn all the, learn all the other history, and some of those were my favorite classes at CSU. But yeah, get the good basic training in computer science, and then that first 9 months in the industry will teach you more than you learned in college about computer science. So make sure you get a broad-based liberal arts education.
Ariel.
And I attended Front Range Community College here in Fort Collins, and I got a degree in networking administration and Microsoft system administrating. And along with that, what I really love about that is that along the way, you can get so many certifications for a lot of these. There's a certification for pretty much every field. Every major company has their own certifications that they have for IT. I have 3 different Google certifications. I have 6 different Microsoft certifications, 3 different CompTIA certifications, and majority of these I got while attending school.
Thank you. Margaret.
Hi, so I have an undergraduate from University of Kentucky. I started as a computer science major, but I happen to take a lot of math classes at the same time, by the way, which is probably a wonderful idea. If you're doing computers nowadays, math is very helpful. Well, it has always been helpful, but I discovered that by the time I was ready to graduate, I needed like 2 more math classes and get a math degree. So I also got a undergraduate major in maths, and then I attended University of Utah and got my PhD in computer science, and it was in user interfaces for computer-aided manufacturing, something very different. Never worked in this area again. System administration and large system engineering and architecture are still love of my work life. So you can study one thing and then actually practice in another. You just need to, learn as you go, and you will learn the rest of your life. Don't assume that what you learn in school will be what you will be doing.
Thank you. Derek.
Yeah, I went to Georgia Tech, and I got a degree in industrial engineering, and we did 2 years of computer science there, and I can say it was significantly harder than any computer science I ever did in a job. So I would say if you go to college, you end up doing CS, and you get kind of daunted by how hard it is. There's a lot of jobs where it's not as hard, and it's more like fitting together Lego pieces than doing like really hard algorithms.
Thank you. Kyle, did that kind of answer the question that you put in the chat about certifications?
Yeah, I think so. I think the big question was, like, are certifications kind of the end all be all? Like, are they pretty important, or is the degree important, or do they both just kind of go hand in hand and focus on getting both? And I know there's a lot of certifications out there that's pretty broad, but I think Ariel, you mentioned 3 different companies you got yours through. So yeah, I think kind of touch base on it a little bit.
Okay. And then Lawrence, I saw you just put something in the chat regarding
Yes, it's just a software methodology. 25 years ago, the idea was that you designed a big computer software program and you did the architecture, then you did all the development, then you did the testing. That has proven not to be a very effective way. The market shifts really fastly. So you don't do the big bang design and development. You start building the minimally viable, the most important vertical slice of functionality for software, and then you get feedback from your stakeholders and customers about where to take it. So a Scrum Agile software methodology nowadays compared to the waterfall life cycle of years ago. That was a pretty important certification for me while I was working at HP.
Thank you. We have time probably for one last question.
Can I just say something? I wanted to say one other thing. Someone just asked a question. If you haven't already figured out, if you're in 9th grade, if you haven't figured out that there are tremendous computer science education resources free on the internet, please do that, right? Even in Khan Academy, or you could start with Khan Academy and then you'll find that there are a lot of other free resources. I think that you could become a world-class software engineer just by getting internet training. But I personally like the broader liberal arts education of a university. Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to add to what could you do as a 9th grader?
Yes, I do. So, if you're learning, actually, if you decide you want to learn how to program and you start looking at these resources, pick a project that actually matters to you, that tries to solve some kind of even extremely simple problem that you have in your life. Okay, it could be maintaining, just notes or, and building a little database for stuff like that, but actually trying to solve a real life problem. And as you're trying to do that, you will try to figure out what kind of things do you actually need to learn. And it's a lot more fun than trying to do like a dry project that's somebody else's idea.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll maybe just echo that there's lots of fun games you can create. That kind of got me interested in it. Just, I'd really like to make my own little Tetris game, or maybe make something that solves some other game. So that was kind of fun. Nowadays, I mentioned Amazon Alexa, Google Home and others are very similar, but you've got those skills that you can create, and they are super simple in terms of just running out there in the cloud. There's examples. You could start with one and then modify it. So you can kind of see how things work, but just little problems or little things that you might want to do. And there's probably somebody that's already doing something similar that you can go look at the code, maybe play with it and adapt it. And that can be just a great way to get involved early on. And it can be anything from, I'm interested in music, or, I enjoy art, or, something like that, and go just see what little tools and things exist, and then start building on that. There are so many resources, and somebody's probably done a little YouTube video on how to do it, so playing around with that gives you some nice exposure, and I think is a great way to just get into the programming from some of your you already have interests in other areas.
Thank you. Well, I want to respect all of your time. We really appreciate all of you joining us here today. It was very informative and very interesting to hear about computer science from all of your professional views. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks. Nice to meet you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.